Wherefore in all things, speaking of Christ, it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. You remember what the prophecy of Daniel says? To make a reconciliation for sin. That's dealing with Christ's priestly work. Now the apostle here tells us that in order for Christ to become a priest and to be a faithful one at that, he had to be one of us, a human being. If you study in the Bible, you'll find this interesting observation. There are no non-human priests. Every priest in the Bible is a human being. You know why? Only humanity has a sin problem. Isn't that right? What's the purpose of a priest? To atone, to mediate. And so this is why in the scriptures you don't find any priest who is not a human being. All of them. There's not that many. You can count them actually, the ones that are mentioned by name. So even Christ, and that was a type actually. So that when Christ was to be our high priest, one of the qualifying things that he had to become is he had to be one of us. He had to be a human being. So that he can be a faithful high priest. One who understands what we go through. And so that means up until that time, did humanity have a high priest in heaven? The answer is no. Now think about that. That's one of the benefits of the cross. Defeated sin, defeated Satan, defeated death. And now, for the first time in history, we have a high priest in heaven. How long did people not have a high priest before the cross? 4,000 years. We have one. It's Jesus Christ. That's what the book of Hebrews is all about. Hebrews 8, 1 and 2. Now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle which the Lord pitched and not man. He's speaking about Christ as a human being who is our high priest. And he says, this is the sum of the matter. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what was accomplished by all these things that Christ did. That's another reason why Christ came as a man, so that he can be our faithful high priest. And this is why in verse 6, he says, speaking of Christ, but now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. When Paul says, now he obtained a better ministry, it means it wasn't there before, right? When or how did Christ obtain a better ministry? When as a man, he lived on earth and he condemned sin in the flesh. And through his death, he abolished death, he defeated Satan, and he rose from the dead. Now he has qualified in obtaining this more excellent ministry. More excellent than what? The only ministry that was in existence prior to the cross, as far as a priesthood, was which ministry? The earthly priesthood, or the ministry of the Levitical priests. Isn't that right? Now Christ came, and what he accomplished is so much greater. It's actually the fulfillment of that. And he obtained a more excellent ministry. So the people living before the cross, the best priesthood that they had was an earthly priesthood, with an earthly priest. We have a more excellent ministry. You realize that? Do you think that sounds like we have an advantage? You better believe it. You think that's not fair in your estimation? Well, that's your estimation. We're going by God's estimation. You see, brothers and sisters, God revealed the plan of salvation for us so that we can accept it and take it as is, not so that we can adjust it to suit what works out fairly for us. And yet that's what so many times people have done. Taken God's plan of salvation and reordered it and reworked it in a way so that it fits with our view of what it should be like. It's no longer God's plan of salvation. We can either accept it for what it is or leave it. But don't play with it and say it's still God's plan of salvation. We have this high priest. We have this more excellent ministry. So what they had is a less excellent ministry.